Well, hey everybody, and welcome to episode 33 of the Pixar Post Podcast. As usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And in this episode, we're going to have our continuation of the Pixar Pipeline Project as we chat with Jason Johnston in the effects department. And along with Jason's interview, we're going to chat about some Toy Story of Terror news, some Good Dinosaur news, some Lava news, Party Central, Radiator Springs 500.5, and more importantly, the exclusive details announced surrounding the next Cars Toon to protect and serve.
Yes.
So a pretty cool episode. So one thing we wanted to note right off the bat is actually just a quick website update like we usually start with is we have a new Tumblr page. We actually had signed up for it a long time ago, but then never really just got active on the Twitter arena.
We never really utilized it now, and now we are. So
excellent observation.
Yes. I'd say it like it is.
That's right. But it's pretty cool. We wanted to... It kind of sparked it with the return of the Monsters University baseball hat in the Disney store. Because we had a lot of people over time asking us, hey, how can I buy this? How can I buy this when it left the store?
Yes,
or it was sold out.
It's the hat, the mug, and the sweatshirt.
Right. Those are the ones
those
that are
three things people are like, I need them now.
Right. So when that returned, we did a post on it, but I was like, some of this stuff, when it's just quick hit stuff like that, we wanted a way to just do products. So we actually we're going to be posting, if you're a Tumblr user and if you'd like to follow us on there, we're going to be doing all of the links to our site and reblogging, some of the other Tumblr that, pages out there, like the official Disney Pixar one and all that kind of stuff when they do interesting ones. But the idea was we wanted to do a Pixar products page. So whenever something new that's Pixar related, since we pretty much troll the Disney Store, Amazon, and all that for Pixar stuff all the time, if we find anything new or interesting or really rare on eBay, for instance, there's going to be a page on our Tumblr page called Pixar Products. So you can click on that. It'll filter out all of the other posts that are on our Tumblr page, so any of the reblogs, anything like that, and it'll just show you products. So if you wanted to, you can certainly do that. You can also sort from there by like Disney Store. You could sort by Amazon, eBay, whichever you might want to be looking for, or just search by the movie based on the tags as well. So, anyways, we just wanted to point that out that that is out there. And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we spent some good time building that. So hopefully you guys like it and utilize it as well. So first things we wanted to start off was actually the Toy Story That Time Forgot. They had their first commercial air. This is a couple weeks back at this point for the special, which is going to be airing on December 2nd, 8:30 p.m. local time.
Yes.
So let's just play the clip right off the bat and let's listen to it and then let's talk about it.
Seems festive.
From Disney and Pixar comes an epic world premiere holiday event.
We really hit the jackpot this Christmas. Oh boy.
Toy Story The Time Forgot. World premiere Tuesday, December 2nd on ABC.
All right, so there's the clip. And obviously it's a little hard with it just being audio and not seeing the visual element of it. But I will say that from the people online, the big hit was the crayon.
Yes, the slow motion crayon break.
Right, and I loved it because you can see all the actual crayon bits, like when it breaks apart coming through the air and everything. I thought that was really cool. But do you have a part that stuck out to you?
Of course, I love Rex, and I like Rex's nervous but excited eyes when he has his, robot arms on. So now he finally has longer arms, which I'm sure he would have loved to in Toy Story 2 to defeat Zurg.
Of course.
But I liked that part the best.
Yeah, so you like the part where he goes, "Wow, that was festive."
Yes.
Or this is festive. Yeah, that part is really cool. That was actually the part that I labeled as mine that I laughed the most. But the one part that I was surprised about and wanted to get your reaction was with the penguin, when Reptilis Maximus knocks his head off. And the penguin goes, "Woo!" You hear it like in the background right there. It kind of shocked me.
Yeah? Is it because he was decapitated, I guess?
Yeah.
I know.
His head lopped off. I was actually surprised by that was out there. And obviously, there's the way that he was making the noise. It almost sounds like at some level that, he's going to be obviously reunited with his noggin.
Yes.
But it was interesting. So
I think it's kind of the same thing as like Mrs. Potato Head when she lost her eye. You know, they're toys. They come apart. It's not that they're done for.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's still something
I didn't think into it as much. I think it's one of those things that you're not supposed to look into that.
Well, I know, but it surprised me because I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, ha 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 ha, and I'm like, whoa, it's in a battle arena. He's got his head, whoosh, you know, guillotined off as well as that guillotine, but regardless,
I did think it was awesome to see Reptilius Maximus though. Because isn't this one of the first times that we've actually seen his full character?
No, we've seen him. He was in the poster that was revealed, the Mike Mignola one, the very first one.
But that was like a sketch one. This is like the first animation I think that we've seen.
He was in the commercial. In the commercial.
In the Wi-Fi one?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
man.
A storyteller commences us.
You're right.
So,
well, this was the first time that I really, really looked at him then. Because the only one about that one is it was just the Wi-Fi.
Right. Yeah, that's the part that's stuck in everybody's heads.
Yes.
Mine too. You know, like I said, I wrote it in the post. I think I responded to somebody. We don't even refer to it as Wi-Fi anymore.
No,
it's just Wi-Fi.
It's just Wi-Fi. Yeah. It's ruined us.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I'm assuming that made you even more excited.
It did. It did.
Absolutely. And it was certainly well received online by far.
I know so many people are saying like, this is amazing.
All the comments on the YouTube video that we uploaded, it's just like, people are like super excited.
I know.
Definitely excited for that. So then let's talk about Lava. So again, a couple weeks back, there was those 2 new still images where you've got the whale jumping out of the water in front of Uku, the main character, and then you've got the turtles nuzzling on the beach,
which is adorable.
And honestly, I cannot stop thinking about that picture.
I know. You talk about it all the time.
I know. I talked about it when we were out the other day. There's something about that image that's just perfect. Not only the emotion that you get in their faces, and that's not even really what I'm all that amazed by.
I think the one thing that sorry to interrupt you, but the one thing that we were talking about was the water.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to. Yeah.
The back right behind, it's the back right of the turtles.
Yeah, behind the turtles. Yep.
Yeah, it's the light shimmering on the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the light shimmering, but it's out of focus, so you see all the different dots, but it's like...
And you had also mentioned the bluish shadows on the sand.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because that's the color that they are. Like, you've got these awesome blue-colored shadows whenever you see them on the beach, and it's just a gorgeous photo.
Mm-hmm. It's so realistic.
I even say it's like a photo because the background's so out of focus, and for camera people, the bokeh, which is how smooth and creamy that out of focus area is, and how the highlights look. You can tell it's a really wide aperture look, and it's so good.
I know, you were totally geeking
Visually,
out.
I can't get over it. It's so ingrained in my head. I want it on my wall. I totally want that.
I know.
It's so good. So yeah, I've been obviously talking about it for...
And we've actually had some emails and some comments about this picture where a lot of people are saying, hey, is this a throwback to Finding Nemo?
Because it looks like
the turtles.
Crush and all that.
Yeah, I don't think that at all. I mean, if anything, they were probably modeled along the same wire framing of those turtles.
Yeah. I don't think it was a direct comparison.
I don't think so either.
I think that's just how Pixar created the turtles, so why create a totally new look of a turtle when that look that they had created for Nemo is perfect already?
Right.
So, yeah.
Realistic, but yet a little cartoony.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so cute.
I know. So, and then obviously there was also the couple interviews that we had posted with Jim Murphy, the shorts director, as well, and we couldn't believe it.
How did we miss this? Yes, let's talk about this.
Yeah, there's a TED Talk in Detroit where we are, like a half hour from our house, and we miss it. And there's a screening of the short, and then Jim plays on ukulele the song that's in the short, and then they show concept art.
How did we miss this?
I have no idea.
Where were we?
I have no idea. We scour the internet for Pixar all day.
All the time.
And literally, I don't understand where we missed that one. But
apparently, we weren't looking at TED Talks during that, week and a half.
Not that I look at TED Talks every week.
Still, how did we miss that?
I don't know. It's crazy. But I thought, talking about that concept art, it was awesome seeing the clay sculpt of Uku from Jerome Rampt, of course.
And that is like I love that. I love this.
I know you love your clay sculpts. I do too. And
the sculpts in the story are that's like my wheelhouse.
Well, speaking of the story, there was that early discussion where Jim was pitching kind of the idea to John Lasseter, and he's coming up with this whole big thing talking about how he's going to have this whale come and flirt with Uku, and John's like, I love everything. Keep it, roll with it. But the dolphin, I think it was maybe a dolphin. The dolphin flirting with Uku with the volcano is a little weird, creepy kind of thing. I thought that was just awesome. Mm-hmm. Just great input. That if you're looking at it from the outside, and that's an instance where Jim is probably just too close to the project.
We've all had that.
Yeah, you need that outsider opinion. We talk about it all the time.
We talk about it all the time where you need to step away. I mean, I ask for your opinion on projects that I'm doing, and yeah, sometimes it hurts to hear feedback like that. But in this instance, just like in our instances, it seems to have worked. Right,
and it makes sense. It makes sense to hear it. All right, so let's move on as well. We're going to talk and we're moving kind of quick here because we've got a lot to get to. With our To Protect and Serve, and then also this amazing interview with Jason Johnston. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Party Central. So let's just listen to a quick little bit about Party Central just to get us motivated to talk about it.
Yes.
This is going to be the best night of our lives!
Aw, cheer up, guys. We thought this might happen.
And that is why we came prepared.
A door station? Where did you get a door station?
Beach ball to throw rug. Come in. Are you in position?
Roger that, beach ball. Operation Party Central is a go.
Mike, what's going on?
Just wait.
All right, so that clip was obviously an early release that was out there that showed a little bit more about the short that was coming up. But the reason we're talking about it today is because on October 21st, it was actually released on Disney Movies Anywhere. And people were able to watch this that maybe didn't see it ahead of Muppets Most Wanted in the theaters and hasn't been released on any DVDs so far. So we were really excited when that was out there, and I was actually going to pull a different clip from it than the one that was the preview that was out. But then I went to Disney Movies Anywhere, and I went, hey, it's not on here anymore. So as of October 29th, it's not online again. So it's about a week when it was there, and it did say for a limited time. Mm-hmm. So that's not of concern. I knew it wasn't going to be for a long time. But what I wanted to talk about is it makes me wonder if it's now going to move to be for sale individually, or if it's going to be released as a broader part of something else.
Could be a Pixar Shorts volume.
No, not enough of them yet since Volume 2.
But with tunes on them, maybe? Like Party Source Rex could be on one.
Oh, Party Source Rex has been released on 2 other things at this point.
But still.
I don't know. I don't know. I just think for some reason I feel like it's just going to be a digital release coming up on iTunes now. And Amazon and all that. Just to buy it by itself.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I
hope so, because it's one of my... I love that one. Anything Monsters University, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the film. I loved the characters. I loved the feeling, the theme. I just loved everything about that.
Yeah, in fact, Randy Allen, who's actually Mike Wazowski 2013 in the forum, who is like a Monsters Inc. and University collector of merchandise beyond belief.
Everything ever made.
Probably. He actually hadn't seen it because he didn't see Muppets Most Wanted. It was driving him nuts.
Oh.
And he's obviously being a huge Monsters fan. His daughter just had a Monsters University or Monsters Inc. Monsters University themed birthday party. So he's been dying to see it. So he said he's already watched it a bunch of times, and he said he really loved the idea that you could, use these doors to kind of steal people from place to place and then push the thing and get the food and all that. So it was really cool that people that are big fans that maybe didn't get a chance to see the Muppets were able to see it. Mm-hmm. So it really makes me wonder, since it's not there, is it just they're updating something on it? On Disney Movies Anywhere, will it come back, or is it now going to move to be a release on iTunes? So I'm predicting release on iTunes.
I would have to agree with you on that one.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to go back on mine.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to rethink that one.
All right, well, speaking of predictions, our predictions were right. regarding which feature film?
Gosh, I don't know.
If you read your show notes, no, yeah. The Good Dinosaur.
Oh, yes.
We were, of course, referencing from last August. We talked about that Bob Peterson was no longer the main director for The Good Dinosaur. Peter Sohn was always the co-director, but we were battling, and not battling, but just discussing, going internally battling. Who's going to be, because now they brought on this team of directors, which was like, in this esteemed panel that was going to look at it, and we were going back and forth. Is it going to be Lee Unkrich? No, because he's doing his Dia de los Muertos film. Is it going to be, Mark
Andrews?
Is it gonna, yeah, we're going back and forth and back and forth, and so I think we finally landed on that it was going to be Peter Sohn. We thought that was finally going to land in that role.
Right.
So that was actually news that was also released on October 21st via Pixar's Twitter feed, when they said, our director, Peter Sohn, can't wait for you to meet Arlo. And it was this little cute video where Peter Sohn starts. You don't see him at first. You just see down on the piece of paper, he's got a pen, and he draws a couple of eyes and then the nose and adds the smile and neck and top of the head.
He's like,
and
there you are.
He's like, oh, there you are. Yeah.
So cute. And it's funny, when I saw that, it reminded me of like the TV shows that we used to watch as kids, like Mr. Rogers and stuff, where it was something sweet and it would kind of come to life.
And then they just gently talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has such a sweet voice.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Well, a door station? Where did you get a door station?
And, Partly Cloudy is like such an awesome short, such a beautiful story. So I'm really excited that we're going to see his full vision of a feature film come to life.
Right.
So that'll be really fun.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to be fun.
Do you think he's going to do a scratch voice that's going to end up in the film, in this one? A film that he's directing.
Ooh, I like that one.
He has so many little voices.
Yeah, I'm going to still say he does have a voice in it somewhere.
Whether background or something that we'll be able to hear that signature voice of his.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right, so you're going no. I'm saying no. Yes. So our other prediction that we still have to see if it's going to come true or not, and we were opposites on this one too, is when we heard that the story was getting rewritten, I said that I believe that the dinosaurs are no longer going to be farmers. And you said you think they're still going to be farmers. So now we'll see if that story element that we knew from before is still going to stick. Do you still stand behind your decision, Julie?
Yes, I do. And I believe I also said that the people are going to be, like, talking. They're going to be less caveman-ish.
Right, you did. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one.
And I think that's
I agreed with you on that one, too. Mm-hmm. At least I think I did.
I think it'll
if
be
I didn't,
more of
you convinced me.
Not more Flintstone-esque, but slightly like it.
Right? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but obviously November 25th, 2015... it's still a ways off, but realistically, it's getting close to a year away.
For Pete's sake, it's almost Christmas.
For Pete's sake.
Got it? You like that?
She just did the double finger point at me. I was just waiting for the shooter. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So, yeah, cool. All right, now let's talk about some very exciting news. We are freaking out,
geeking out,
freaking excited,
out,
thrilled, doing backflips,
honored,
backflips.
We're doing backflaps over here, whatever those are.
Yeah, so we are excited to have the first exclusive first look, or just the exclusive first look at next year's Cars Toon, To Protect and Serve. So we had a post that we've put out previous to this podcast. If you haven't seen that, you can certainly check it out. Again, it'll be in the show notes. You can always just go to pixarpost.com just click on the podcast button. And then again, this is episode 33. But let's read some of the details and talk through some of the people that are involved with the short. Mm-hmm. So To Protect and Serve, directed by Scott Morse, co-director by Rob Gibbs, a big-time veteran of the Cars Toons, produced by Mary Alice Drum and Nicole Paradis Grindle. Lightning McQueen will, of course, have his reprise. I shouldn't say of course. It's actually pretty cool. Again, for another Cars Toon, much like Radiator Springs 500.5, Owen Wilson is back on this one. Mater is still and always has to be Larry the Cable Guy. We have Sheriff as Michael Wallace. We have Sally as Bonnie Hunt. Fillmore as Lloyd Scher. Ramon, Cheech Marin. Luigi, Tony Shalhoub. These are all people that we're used to but now we have 2 new characters.
Yes.
They are...
And we are geeking out, especially TJ, because he, loves police cars, loves the police community. Wanted to be a police officer and an animator when he was very young.
Oh, yeah. And a green tractor driver, but regardless. But yes, a police officer. I even did in 2007 a Citizens Police Academy. I think we might have talked about some of this before. But yes, seeing the design for these 2 new police officer cars to protect and serve is like a dream. It's worlds colliding.
Yes.
It's worlds colliding.
It's exactly where I was going.
Yes, it's so great. So the new cop characters are DD05, who is voiced by Wendy McClendon Covey. So Wendy McClendon Covey. And Mike 07 is Aziz Ansari. So just for people that may not be familiar with them, I'm going to play a clip of both of their voices, and then Julie, you'll give us a hint as far as some of their other projects, so maybe people can all put that together.
They're honest and they yell a lot.
They don't think they're crazy, which is every family. No family will say that they're crazy, but everybody's family is, okay?
And crazy people always think they're so totally sane.
They're totally sane. Now,
Okay, so first off, I have a bone to pick. I think I'm totally sane. I think our family's normal. Does that make me crazy?
Yes.
So Wendy, we have a little bonus in there, by the way. Her clip, she's actually in which TV show?
The Goldbergs.
Okay, and her husband in that show is...
Oh gosh, now you've totally... I can see his...
Jeff. What do you put on the Christmas tree?
Garland.
Jeff Garland, who was the voice of...
Otis.
And... Otis in Cars 2, and...
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
What?
He was the captain in WALL-E.
Oh, I knew that.
Yeah, I know you did. I love putting you on the spot. But yeah,
so he was
the So now we're welcoming, in addition to Jeff, we're welcoming Wendy into the fold here, and give us an idea of some more projects she's been on, because I actually knew her from the Goldbergs, and I kind of forgot about some of the other projects that she had done.
Well, I think most people will know her. She was Rita in Bridesmaids. She also was in Reno 9/11.
Okay.
She was on it or 911. She was on it for about 5 years. And she has also voiced Patricia Bunny in the Looney Tunes show since 2012. So she's already done animation work.
Right.
Animation voice work,
right,
which is really good. And
she was actually one of the neighbors. Or not a neighbor.
Oh, she was also on Modern Family.
On Modern Family. And that's where I think she's going to take some of her voice inspiration for this police officer role.
You are right. She has a great voice.
She can get very serious or very excitable.
Yes, she's such a comedian. I mean, I love her. I think she's hilarious. I think she's very witty and smart. Which I can't wait to see what she brings to this new character.
Yeah. So that's a little bit on Wendy, and then let's listen into a clip on Aziz, and the clip that I chose, he talks about something that happens to us all the time, and it references some films that we happen to love, and then we're going to talk through a synopsis, some more plot details from the short as well.
Does this situation happen to you? You're sitting at your computer, working on something really important, and then you just think, man, I wonder if Home Alone 2 made more money than Home Alone 1. I gotta look into this now. Sorry, important work, something more pressing has come up.
Okay, so first off, I think we're all guilty of the internet rabbit hole, which is essentially what he's getting at.
And is it weird that I do think that Home Alone 2 made more money than Home Alone 1? Is it possibly because I like Home Alone 2 better?
Are we going to look this up right now?
No.
All right, well, you know what? I'm going to look it up. You tell us what Aziz Ansari has done for vocal work.
Yes. Well, Aziz has been on Reno 911 or 9/11. He was on 2 episodes back in 2009. So I think it's kind of neat that both Wendy and Aziz did some work on Reno 911. He also is not a stranger to animation work. He was the voice in Epic, and he also had a voice in Ice Age.
Okay.
Yeah, along with a couple other, Cartoon Network kind of shows and stuff that he's done voiceover
I remember Epic because they did that a lot in the previews for that.
Yeah.
That he was involved in
the slug.
That. Yeah,
Mub.
absolutely. All right, so I have your answer. What do you think? Which one officially made more money?
I think Home Alone 2 because I liked it better.
All right, I will. Oh, did you now?
I don't know why.
All right, so
it's just I like Jaws 2 better than Jaws 1.
Oh boy. All right, so so for Home Alone 1, released November 16th, 1990, it box office poll was 476,684,675. So we'll just round that off and say 477 million. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, releasing November 20th, 1992. Budget was, we're going to round it again, 359 million. So, not quite.
Still a good flick.
But still a good flick. Oh, that's too much. So, okay, so...
Here's a fun fact.
Oh, I'm interested.
I actually watched Home Alone 2 when I went to go to the Monsters University Press Day in the hotel room that evening.
And what month was that?
April.
That's right. Makes you wonder what channel is it on?
Thank you, ABC Family.
Yeah, ABC Family. They do air some interesting stuff in odd months. But yeah, Home Alone 2, it seems to be on throughout the year. All right, so let's talk a little plot details, short synopsis for To Protect and Serve. When Sheriff takes a mandatory vacation, 2 overzealous rookies from county take over his duties in Radiator Springs. Bent on making a good impression to score commendations, the rookies overdo every aspect of their jobs, finding, quote, crimes at every turn and turning the quiet little town into a hotbed of taped-off crime scenes. No one is safe and everyone is a suspect until Sheriff senses an imbalance and returns home to right the, quote, justice that has been served.
Hilarious.
You can already, obviously the Cars Toons are set up so that way they're full of hijinks and hilarity, but this definitely seems like it's going to be another one where it's just going to be these two, DD05 and Mike 07 are going to be coming in just guns ablazing.
Yeah, goofballs, but serious goofballs and...
they're going to be the overly...
Just the overzealous.
Yeah, and they're going to make themselves ridiculous because of it. And everybody's going to be going... I can just imagine Luigi already, like, oh, come on!
And what's so funny about this is when we read the plot synopsis, I was like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. And then when I saw who the characters were voiced by, I was like, perfection. This is going to be perfect with these 2 voice actors.
It certainly is going to be fun.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm really excited about this one.
Okay, so when's it going to air?
We don't know a specific date. All we do know is that it is going to be sometime in 2015, and it's most likely going to be on one of the Disney channels, the Disney affiliated channels. So
right. So we don't have an idea if it's going to be January, February, March, April. I'm assuming not January, but we're not sure exactly where
spring,
in the year.
Summer, fall. We don't know.
Could be, but yeah, it's very exciting that we know a little bit more details. This was originally discussed at I think it was D23, wasn't it? The 2013. Yeah. Just a very brief...
Very quick.
Yeah, just mention of it, just saying. And the other one was To Protect and Serve. Yeah, it was just the title is all they had talked about at that time when they were giving more details on Radiator Springs 500 and a half. Mm-hmm. So pretty cool.
Oh, so exciting.
Oh, I know. I can't wait to see how they... And this is another geeky part, but I can't wait to see how they render,
the flashing lights?
Yes!
I know, I thought about the same thing. High five! I thought the same thing, how the lights, the light's gonna just, kind of, fan out into it's gonna be awesome.
They've done other things like that, there was lights on the robots that spun around and all that kind of stuff, but there's something about this that I think there's gonna be some lens flare. There's gonna be low camera angles and screeches into the lens.
It's gonna be I hope they do some angles from total 70s cop shows
there's gonna be a throwback.
I hope they have a throwback song, a theme song when they come down. It would be hilarious.
Dun, 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 dun,
yeah.
Do they have to have the waves of lights coming out from something behind them and it freeze frames?
Or maybe something like a Beastie Boys throwback, Sabotage, where it's they're jumping over. That could be funny. And that is very relevant to the directors that are in this because that is our era kind of thing.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to see them
total Beastie Boys throwback. Sabotage.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah. I wonder who's going to score this. Who's going to put some music to it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be fun. But no matter what, we're talking about anywhere from like 5 to 7 minutes of just hilarity of these. We've got Dee Dee and Mike that are going to be causing chaos in town. And, I also had to laugh at the sheriff takes a mandatory vacation.
Oh,
I mean,
he's probably just like, what do you mean I need to take a vacation?
What do you mean I need to take a vacation? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I could just see him because, it's probably these guys from Carburetor County coming in, and they're probably setting these rules saying, hey, old timer, the new rules aren't, you have to go and to use your vacation days. You can't just not use them anymore. It's the law.
Right.
Like you have to take a break, for people that work like over 5 hours, you have to be at least 15 minutes or a half hour or whatever. I think that part's going to be hilarious too. That again, I always wonder how all of this is going to unfold in such a short time, because I could see this already being
like a half-hour special.
Totally.
I know. But you know what? They always do it. I don't think there's never been one Cars Toon where I've been like, oh, well, that was way too quick. I mean, I think they're quick.
Always too quick.
I think they're too quick.
Always are left wanting
because
more.
I want more, which is the good thing.
Right.
But it's never been like, oh, I didn't really quite understand all of that in that short of time.
All right. Here's just an internal question that I'm going to ask you here. What about of the Mater shorts of the Cars Toons that are out there? What's the one that we catch ourselves like making fun of and humming? Not making fun of, but like talking about. It involves Guido.
The spinning one?
No, the one with Heavy Metal Mater. It's like...
Oh, goodness. The beginning of Heavy Metal Mater. I forgot about that.
Yes, we used to just play that part over and over.
Oh, all the time. The karaoke part.
You're right, yeah. I know, it's so dorky.
I mean, it's like 2 seconds, but it's like so funny.
I know, we love it.
I know.
Voiced by Guido Coroni. Pixarian.
Yes.
So, all right, well, let's move off of that for now. Certainly, again, we were honored that we were able to get the exclusive first look on that and bring that to you guys as our readers and listeners.
And definitely check out the post with the image. I mean, the image is awesome.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's very high resolution too. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Be sure to tell us, either leave us a voicemail, send us an email, comment on the post for the podcast. Let us know. We'd love to hear what you think about it and if you're excited about it. All right, let's move on to the showcase of this episode, if you will, which is the Pixar Pipeline Project, the continuation of it. Again, just for people that might be listening as this is their first time, the idea was we wanted to get an idea of some of the most of the major departments that touch a film from once the story gets greenlit to when it actually hits the theaters, or right before it leaves the studio and hits the theaters. So it's really our look at those main divisions and groups and teams that touch it and how they affect the film as it goes through. So far we've talked with Louis Gonzalez from Story, we've talked to Chloe Closeman from Editing, we've talked to Craig Foster from the Art Department, Mayar Abusaidi from Layout Team, Aaron Hartline from the Animation Team, Angelique Reich just this last month from the Lighting Team, and now we're talking to Jason Johnston, the VES, which is the Visual Effects Society award winner as part of the effects team there. So he has won... he's worked on a ton of projects. I don't want to list them all. It would just get boring, but he's been there since 2002. He won a VES award along with others on the effects team for Outstanding Effects and Animation in 2007 for Ratatouille, specifically about the food. And we're going to talk about that really fascinating stuff about Ratatouille and the food in the interview. 2008, again, Outstanding Effects Animation and the Animation Motion Feature Motion Picture, 2008 for WALL-E. And then also for Outstanding Effects Animation in 2009 for Up. The other thing I wanted to touch on before we get into this, you're going to hear my amazement throughout a lot of this and utter respect that I gain for the effects team. And I certainly knew about the effects team and what they did, and I already had respect for them as far as their element that they were doing in the movie, but I just really didn't grasp everything that they did. Yeah,
I don't know if you understood the amount of work.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and I didn't either until I listened to it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
it's contribution times 10 over what my brain was already thinking was complex.
Right.
Right. So really cool stuff. So I hope that as you listen to this, I hope everyone can sense that as well and gain certainly a lot more respect for the effects artists at Pixar and part of the team. So let's listen to our interview with Jason Johnston. Thank you for talking with us today, Jason. And the first question that we typically like to ask people is, fill us in a little bit about the visual effects department at Pixar. For instance, what does an average day in the life look like for you?
Well, the visual effects department at Pixar, we handle mostly natural phenomena. So anything from like dust or fire, things like that, and also magical type effects. An average day for me is, I'm usually currently active in a shot, so I will come in and I've probably put something on the farm from the previous night, like a sim or a render. Mm-hmm. So I'll take a look at that and see where we're at, and then from there I will set some goals for the day. You know, like where do I want to be at the end of the day in this shot? So once I've set those, I'll just get actively working on the shot. And, you know, meetings come up here and there throughout the day, director reviews or meetings with my effects lead. But other than that, I'm just working on the shot with the hopes that by the end of the day, I'll have something to put on the farm, another sim or another render, you know, something to keep progressing in the shot that I'm working on.
Yeah, so it sounds like... it sounds like that's something that you're always, like you said, you're involved in a lot of different projects. So it sounds like there's a lot of short burn type things that you're getting and putting out there and getting and putting out there. Is that about accurate?
Yep, that's right. You know, there's a little bit of playing around with different ideas, you know, to see what's going to work. But then once you get a little bit further in the shot, you've kind of honed in on how you're going to do the shot. And then it's just about tweaking and then working with your lead to get the director's vision.
Okay. So when you're formulating those type of effects, is it really... you already kind of have an idea based on those meetings that you've had of how this should look, and then it's, like you said, it's refining it from there. But if you say, for instance, hey, I need to include fire in this scene, there's going to be an explosion, how do you know how to start and build that effect?
Okay, well, we usually start with a kickoff from the effects lead. Mm-hmm. So he'll come over and we'll look at the shot that it's going to be in. And we look at, like, okay, what does it mean to the shot? Does it need to interact with anything? Is it based on something blowing up? All of these things go into the shot. And then from there we look at a lot of reference, anything from like clips on YouTube to reference from films. If it's something a little more subjective, like a magical effect, we will have a meeting with the director and our director. And just to hear it from him, what he's looking for, that way we just don't go down the wrong path. And in cases like that, we will most likely get some art from the art director.
Okay. Now, when you also say a magical effect, give me an example of what that would be.
So a great example of a magical effect would be like in Brave, when the witch in the cottage is throwing in different elements into her cauldron, mm-hmm. and different kinds of effects are coming out. She throws something in and it quickly turns into lava. Or she throws something else and a burst of like snowflakes come out of the cauldron. Things like that, like how specific do we need to be to reality versus something a little more artistically driven.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So when are you typically brought into the process for a project, and then how is that work separated out among the team members to get started?
The effects department's usually brought in about a year to a year and a half before the film is done. Okay. We just need things to be to a certain point in the pipeline before we can get in there and do our work, especially if it's driven by the animation. The effects lead is usually on much earlier than that, just to start doing bidding and planning. And he may have a guy or two with him to start deving out some projects. The way it's separated is usually based on skill set. In the perfect world, you give the fire shots to the artist that's really good with fire, and then the water shots to the water guy. And this happens in a lot of cases. Sometimes you have to just, luckily, we're all so strong that you can give somebody a fire shot who's never done fire, and they'll rise to the occasion.
Sure. Yeah, I know you say it's obviously in a perfect world, but that obviously, you might be working on something and then you have to move it on to the next person.
Yep, that's right. Also certain artists are more technical versus artistic, so that definitely, they take that into account as well.
Sure, yeah, and that's kind of been mirrored among the conversations that we've had among the different departments as well. Obviously, people, they come from all different backgrounds and they have different strengths. So yeah, you obviously try to gear towards that, and obviously you're not pigeonholed towards it. So if there's somebody that's really interested in doing water, I'm assuming that they could raise their hand, much like the other departments, and say, hey, this is something I'd like to give it a go on.
That's absolutely correct. There's been times where I myself have seen the first storyboard reels, and I'm like, I really want to work on that. And what's cool is that the effects leads, they're really open to that kind of thing. If you show that you're passionate about something, they'll let you take a stab at it.
Awesome. Are you known as a certain, do you have an area like where fire is your strength or water or whatever?
Yeah, lately I've been doing a lot of fire. And that kind of falls into a gaseous fluid sim. So I usually do more fluid sims these days.
Okay.
In the past, I've done a lot of particle work, but once we switched from Maya to Houdini, I really was taken with the fluid sims. So.
Oh, okay. You're saying the Houdini platform allowed that to expand in your horizon?
Yeah, it did, because it was more open. It wasn't as restricting as Maya was for me. You could really do anything you want, and for the first time for me, a fluid sim could be artistically driven.
So when people think of visual effects, like we've even been talking about, the first thing that often comes to mind is, fire, water, any type of particulate matter. Are there other areas where the effects team really gets their hand dirty to help a movie kind of come alive a little more?
Well, we do a lot of destruction and a lot of water and liquids as well. I think water is one of the biggest things that we do outside of your basic ones that you mentioned. And what's tricky about water is that it can be in several different forms. It could be a hard surface look, or it could be particulate spray, or a vapor, a misty vapor. And all of those things, need to kind of be simulated differently, and they all respond to lighting differently. So it can be really tricky to get it right. And on top of that, they're really long sims.
Interesting, because as you started talking about the different forms of water, I started to think about the blue umbrella, because obviously there's those scenes where there's so much rain coming down, and then you've got almost some of the bounce back off of the top of the umbrellas, which is then creating a little bit more of a mist.
Yep.
And wow, that definitely seems like that would be a massive challenge, plus all that reflectivity and everything.
Yeah, it's very shading dependent and lighting dependent. So sometimes you may have a sim that looks good, but until you light it and shade it, you don't really know what it's going to look like.
So it's really interesting to think about this stuff, because I do love the elements where you get to slow down and really think about projects. Like I said, that kind of hit me with that, thinking about the blue umbrella like that. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you've been honored with is winning several VES awards, along with your coworkers in the effects department. And one of the films that you won for, Ratatouille, there's a category specifically called out in that you won for the food in the film. So chat about the effects department and how they helped the food come to life in that movie.
Sure. So on Ratatouille, we had several different food challenges. One of the challenges was the ability to cut up vegetables. So what we do is we had to create a new tool for that. One of the effects artists at the time created this tool that could take a piece, like a vegetable, from the sets department, and take the animation, and so the animators would mime cutting up the vegetable, and then his tool would analyze it and basically cut it up into new models on the fly.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really great. Man, it took a lot of legwork out of it for the other artists. And then on top of that, we had to do elastic dough. We had to do sauces, like various sauces. And we also had to do a full-frame potato leek soup that Remy creates in the film. So it needed to look good, right up close. So I think it was this combination of effects that you don't really see in your typical animated film that really contributed to our win that year.
Wow, fascinating. And obviously I would assume, Pixar's storied history with research, there was probably a couple bowls of potato leek soup around.
You are absolutely correct. On that film, I believe it was one of the production managers was a former chef. And so I worked on the soup. And he was like, well, let's just do some research. Let's shoot this. I'll show you how it's made. And so we went down into the cafe, and he made it one day. And, it was great research, but it was even better to eat it afterwards.
Of course. That's a great tidbit from Ratatouille there, because honestly, again, as an outsider looking in, you wouldn't necessarily think, hey, the cutting of the vegetable, which I can envision all those scenes that they're doing that in, that it would be as complex as that. It seems so simple on the surface.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great information. So as far as the other VES awards that you were involved with, WALL-E or Up, are there any other little elements that were more challenging and or what brought WALL-E or Up to life a little more like that, similar with Ratatouille?
In Up, one of the big challenges that the effects team had to do was the balloon canopy. So a couple of the guys, they had to dev that for months beforehand because it was early on decided that the effects team was going to handle all of the balloons in the shots as well as the strings that tied them to the house. So an in-house simulator was created by one of the guys to handle that type of effect.
And that kind of leads into, and it's very similar to my the last comment I made there, but in terms of the visual effects, was there a scene in any of the movies, not necessarily Ratatouille, WALL-E, or Up, that posed a particular challenge from an effects standpoint that you had to keep working on to get it just right, and what made it so tricky?
Going back to that soup, it was really tricky at the time. Because it had a liquid component as well as vegetables. So if you think about it, that's two different simulations. There is a liquid fluid sim as well as a rigid body sim for the vegetables. But they need to interact with each other. And at the time, that wasn't easy to do. It was really hard to simulate those two types of things together. So another thing that made it tricky was that I needed the liquid to move the vegetables around, as well as I needed the vegetables to be a collision object for the liquid. So I'm like, which one do I do first?
Yeah, it's chicken or egg thing going on here.
Yeah. So what I did was I looked online and I looked up heat convection in boiling pots. And I looked at how heat moves around in a boiling pot. And so I did a separate sim of heat in a pot. And then I used that as a force on the vegetable sim. And so I got this boiling motion of the vegetables. And then I was able to use that on the liquid sim as a collider. And I got the liquid to behave like a boiling soup from using that. And then I was able to just put them together, and it worked.
So much like making a soup, you had to make an effects soup.
Yeah.
That's my bad pun of the day.
Oh, great.
So, and again, much like my last question, the next one I'm going to ask is very similar to that. And thinking about, was there a scene that you worked on that you're particularly fond of, or one that stood out really visually to you?
The one that always sticks with me is Paradise Falls and Up. It means so much to the story and to Carl and the love he has for Ellie that I'm just truly honored to have created it. And the way it appears in the film, like the first time you see it, everything from like the sets to the lighting to the way it's revealed through the cloud layer to Carl's reaction, it's just perfect for me.
Okay, so yeah, it's that whole scene where they're coming in and he's seeing it for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely impactful because you can see it, and feel it. And that's what you want. You want to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I would assume, there's all these different effects, and it sounds like, gosh, there's so many more things than what people even mentioned. I talked about it with the cutting of the vegetables, not realizing that was even there. So is there a Pixar film that involved just an enormous amount? Like, which one had the most different visual effects on it? And how does that even compare? So, like, if you said, like our guess, I'll even throw it out there, our guess would be Cars 2. And I'm only saying that based on the amount of action, and I'm thinking about, boy, oh boy, that opening sequence with all the different things going on there.
Right.
But how would that even compare to the next film below that?
WALL-E was actually the film with the most visual effects. It ended up being 50% of all the shots in the film had effects of some sort. And how that compares is most of our films usually only have about 30 to 40% effects in them.
And that makes sense. I'm only thinking about it from like a Big Bang kind of, scenario where there's all this action going on. But certainly from WALL-E, it does make perfect sense that would be the one with the most involvement.
Yeah, on Cars 2, I don't know the numbers offhand, but I know that first sequence was a huge chunk of the entire film's effects budget for that film.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's that's why it's the one that we took a guess when Julie and I were formulating some of the questions. That's what we were like. It's got to be maybe Cars 2 because of all like that opening scene is so huge.
Yeah,
and obviously because you think of him going up, Finn McMissile going around that circular kind of road, the rotunda there, and then you've got the barrels coming down with the explosions, and then he's even going in the water. You've got the torch off of Acer and all those kind of things.
It's such a fun sequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's fun to know is that one of our films, upcoming films, is actually going to rival the number of shots that are in WALL-E.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk about that after it comes out.
Yeah.
So, and obviously at the beginning when we were talking, you had mentioned Maya and Houdini. As I started looking into the visual effects field a little more, there seems to be this plethora of software, programming languages, plugins. So you had mentioned specifically, again, you're working with Houdini, but is that a Pixar standard? Are there all of these different programs that are out there? And the reason why I asked that question is, for someone that may be looking to get into the industry, are there areas that you believe or programs that you believe would be the best for somebody to learn to start gaining experience in?
I would have to suggest Houdini. If you don't have your hands on Houdini, Maya is still a good place to start. From there, you can learn, fluid simulations and rigid body dynamics and particle effects. But really, for me, in Houdini, that's where we were able to really expand, and do things that we couldn't do before. And really, there's no limitations for us in Houdini. You're your only limitation.
Oh.
So from there, I would say, learn as much as you can. Take math classes, take physics classes, or learn about physics. Learn how things move and the weight of things. But also, take some photography classes, take painting classes, and if you find yourself a more technical guy, force yourself. I feel like the best effects artists are a combination of both. So you really need to have that physics and math background, but then you need to have a good eye for color and composition and timing.
That's great, because obviously, with anything, you can have an expertise, you can hone in on it, but yeah, certainly the broad appeal is where people really have their value, so that's great. All right, well, let's get to know you a little bit. Describe your journey to Pixar. When did you start, and how did you get there?
Well, I started on The Incredibles, and I started here at Pixar in 2002 to work on The Incredibles. Before that, it was a bit of a long journey for me. I was always doing art growing up, and I also had a love of film. And when I was in high school, I got lucky enough to be in a film and television class that they had at my school. And in this class, you could specialize in different things. You could do script writing, or you could do camera work or sound work. But they also had an old Amiga computer to do like flying logos and short animations for their shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at that moment when I saw the merging of the two loves I had, both art and film. So that's what I specialized in that class was computer animation. And so I really just fell in love, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I started researching, and at that time, and still today, one of the biggest players in VFX is ILM. So I really wanted to work at ILM. So after I graduated high school, 1 month after I graduated, I started art school. I just wanted to get through it as fast as I could so that I could, work in this field. And it was at that time I was in art school that the first Toy Story came out. And I was just blown away. I was like, oh, I got to go to this Pixar place. This is amazing. I've never seen anything like that. So I graduated art school, and I applied. And I totally got turned down. But it didn't deter me, and it was still my focus. So I got my first job at a post-production house in Dallas, and I was working on, the first show I worked on was Barney the Purple Dinosaur.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Appealing, yes.
Yeah. It was a good first show.
No, absolutely, No reason to dog it by any means. It's just one of those ones that has that stigma that comes with it because there's been so many parodies of Barney after that.
Oh, it totally does. Yeah, so then after that, I worked there for about a year, and I then went to DNA Productions, and they're famous for a movie called Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
Sure,
I worked on that. And then after that, I made my way out to LA, and I got hired by the visual effects company that worked on Babylon 5 and Star Trek Voyager. So I went there to work on a show based on Starship Troopers. And then about 6 years had passed, and I applied at Pixar again, and I got the interview, and I eventually got the job. So, and that was around 2002, and I've been here ever since, about 12 years now.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where I think so many people have that memory of when they first saw Toy Story and how impactful that was in their lives. I mean, I can remember myself, I was a junior in high school when that came out, and I can remember that vividly. I mean, that day, I remember the theater, I remember the seat that I was generally in, like where I sat in the theater, the feeling that you have when you come out of there, and just the energy and invigoration that burst into everybody at that time. Just so impactful and so amazing. And
it was seeing something new for the first time, and look at where we're at today,
I know, just so amazing. Just so amazing. I mean, to me, it was one of those moments where being a computer dork and also loving animation, I was like, holy cow, this is everything. I was like, this is amazing. So give us an idea of the visual effects department structure. Like approximately how many team members are part of the team. And again, similar to the last question, one of the reasons I asked that is, a lot of our readers and listeners of the podcast are in school, and obviously they're looking to get into some type of art arena. And, if there's anything that you could elaborate on as well from an effects department standpoint, if somebody's looking to find their way into that. I know you had mentioned part of that in the previous question with learning math and physics and also balancing that out with the art side of things. But is there anything else that you could expand on that would help somebody that's looking to get into that or the visual effects arena?
Right. So our current structure, I believe we have about 25 people and five effects leads. So the current film in production, meaning like the one that's coming out next, at its peak, they'll have about 15 people. And then the rest of the artists are spread out amongst the other shows that are in production. As far as any advice or skills, as I've said before, Houdini's great, but learn a bit of Python. That's also helpful. But also, look at a lot of reference. Look at fire. Look at explosions and learn, the science behind it. Learn, why does an explosion move the way it does? I found that learning that stuff for myself has really helped my own work, just to know what's happening under the hood. But then on top of that, just never forget that in the end, you're making an image, and that's what's going to be in the film. So make it pretty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You gotta do your work to make sure that it lives on in the film, and you spend the time to do it right.
Yeah.
All right, so now I think that you can understand what I was talking about going into before the interview about how much more I learned and what I didn't know that they really were involved in. Yeah, so for instance, obviously the one part that blew my mind, and I expressed this in the interview, is I had no idea of how they have to layer so many effects in order to get the images just look just right. So on the soup example, it was crazy to hear how he had to create the layer for the boil effect and then figure out how the liquid element and the viscosity and the solid elements, having the veggies in there, how they would all interact with each other to make it look just right. I had no idea that they have to conjure, brave, so much to get that to look the way it does.
Something that you would just totally take advantage of, being like, oh, well, they just animate that.
Right. And you think about so much of, I
think of just animation, not that's an effect, not that's simulation, not, there's lighting in that.
Right, there's
so
all these other
many
layers there. Yeah. And you think about all the food that was involved in Ratatouille, you can see why they won the award specifically for the food in Ratatouille.
Right.
It just got all these different things, and so many of them are on screen for such a short amount of time. But again, if they do their job right, as all the departments say, if they do their job right, you're not paying attention to it. You're just involved in the whole thing overall. So the other crazy element that blew my mind that I told you about it as soon as we got off the interview, was that solution that they had to come up with to get the veggies to cut. So you've got this thing where the animator is animating the hand motion with the knife, but the veggie, again, I assumed you're just talking about the animator is going to be, since he's, pushing that down, he's going to be doing the veggie as well, whatever that may be. Let's just say it's a carrot. But no, they had to create this simulation, this program that went through and would actually slice as it would mimic based on the animator's movements. That's just so cool.
I know.
Just so cool.
Such a science.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's science and art and so many layers, like you said.
Yeah, and I love how, Jason really got into a lot of those, not only the day in the life stuff, but also so many different great programs specifically for people to recommend to learn and look at, and ways you could really expand your skills if you're looking to get into the effects department. Things you need to know, take some math classes, learn about physics, all those kind of things.
Which is the best part about this whole series, this whole pipeline project, because I feel like the feedback that we get is people just, thank you so much. I like to know what they recommend, what the Pixarians recommend.
Sure.
Give us, feedback on their journey and what I should do if I am interested in this field, if I'm interested in this field.
And it's an interesting position to be in, too.
And
because
his was different from a lot of other people. So that's...
Absolutely.
I mean, it's great to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's... I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, it's an interesting thing because that's one of those things that, as working at Pixar, you get asked that question, I'm sure, quite often. How do I get here? How do I get here? As we were analyzing what questions we were going to be asking, I didn't necessarily want to go down that road, but I figured if we expanded on it a little more, if we, put it near the end and opened up and then dug into it a little bit further, it could gain some more just details, and wanted to honor that by getting that out there. So anyways, well, we certainly hope you enjoyed this episode with the To Protect and Serve information, with the news wrap-up, and then obviously the great interview with Jason Johnston. Thank you again so much for taking the time, Jason. We really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And so be sure to follow us on all of our social media channels as usual, like I like to say. And this time I'm going to throw one in there. It's going to be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, Google+, and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and or Stitcher. But I threw in the Tumblr this time because I mentioned at the top of the show that we had that in there. And lastly, we always like to remind people, if you like today's show, if you have a comment or anything that you felt from Jason's interview, we would love to know. Rate us on iTunes, leave a comment on our site, send us an email to info@PixarPost, and get ready for next month's Pixar Pipeline interview where we're talking with somebody from post-production. All right, so I guess that about wraps up episode 33 of the Pixar Post Podcast. Signing off as usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And be sure to stay tuned to PixarPost.com all week for the latest Pixar news.